Yes, they're coming back to you, Bilkis. The very nature of these protests that have been going on since October 1st, there's a understanding that this time around in Iraq, what we're seeing is there isn't much of a leadership here. It's not like one political organization or a activist leader is leading the protesters out on the street. Is that still the case now? Is that your understanding of what's happening on the ground?
Yes, there continues to be no clear either political movement or leader that's behind these protests. And as a result, every protester that I speak to has a different set of demands that they want to see met. And as a result of that, it's going to be actually quite difficult for the government to meet the demands of the protesters because there are so many different demands coming from so many different sides. I think this truly is a movement without a leader for the time being.
But it's interesting to note that Iraq, being one of in fact, the second largest producer of oil in the world, has also one of the highest unemployment rate here. These are predominantly the youth who are out on the streets demanding primarily a job and a better life.
Yes, Iraq is one of the richest countries in the world. If you look at the amount of oil that is extracted every day and sold on the international market, I think that's exactly why young people are so deeply frustrated that, you know, in the last 15 years, they see very limited services. And one of the main things is a lack of jobs, a lack of a developing economy. Unemployment rates are extremely high. And that's, I think, why you see among the protesters themselves that the vast majority are, you know, young men, the kind who are themselves most victim to this failing economy.
And it's a big concern, obviously, because this is the future of Iraq here, on the streets, unemployed, protesting a change from the government that doesn't seem to be very moved. I mean, we're hearing corruption reports. Last year, there was this huge scandal that 450 billion went missing. When you speak to protesters, is there an understanding that how they expect this will be resolved, or what will happen?
No, I think protesters, are making very specific demands. Some of them that have already been mentioned, like amending the constitution, amending the electoral law. But when you talk to protesters about how the fundamental root causes of the problem need to be addressed, the main one being corruption, I don't think anyone really knows how you tackle that. Corruption is so massive and so endemic in the entire political system as it exists that you would really need to talk about dismantling that entire system. And given the amount of money in the system, given the amount of arms and power that's caught up in the system, it's very hard to imagine how you would begin to sort of recreate that, removing this massive risk of corruption.
Now, you did mention that it's pretty much a leaderless protest, leaderless demonstrations. There's not one specific party responsible for it. But how does this work out when humanitarian organizations are trying to assist, because there's complete chaos in cities where these protests are taking place? Are there difficulties that they're facing in coordinating with those injured on the ground or those who are organizing these protests?
So the main type of assistance that's needed on these streets is really medical assistance. And as I mentioned, we have been speaking to medical teams and doctors in different cities, including Baghdad and in the south, that have said that they've been coming more and more under threat. Ambulances are being fired at with live ammunition, tear gas cartridges. I've spoken to numerous medics who've told me that their medical tents have been shot at or taken down by security forces. So they really are struggling in providing protesters with the type of help they need if they're injured, while at staying safe themselves.